All right, Rob. Last night I called it. I called that the Philadelphia Eagles' perfect undefeated season would end. Just had a feeling, and that feeling was right. And they lose, what was it, 32-21, I think was the final, to the Washington Redskins.
Commanders.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Washington Commanders. But anyway, do we have sound of A.J. Brown, guys? Well, we'll A.J. Brown talked about it, the star wide receiver, after the game and kind of mimicked what I had been saying. It seems like we don't have anything, at least not right now. But, Rob, excuse me, do we have it? All right, no sound. You probably saw his quote, Rob.
Yep.
He said all that 17-0 blank can end right now. That's a paraphrase. And let me say this, Rob. First, and that was my cry last week, that a loss would be good for them. But I got to be honest, I don't really like hearing it come from one of their players. I think it's one thing for me or anyone outside of the team or the organization to say it, because we're not there. We're not on the team. But for a player to say that, Rob, after merely an 8-0 start, already tells me it was starting to get to him. Like, he was downright gleeful. Not that they lost, of course, but that the quest for 17 was over. So they weren't 12-0. They weren't 14-0, where it really was getting like, will they go undefeated? They were 8-0. They weren't even halfway through the season. And so to me, that just backs up what I said, that I think this was good for them. Obviously, you try to win. They should. I'm sure they did try to win. But I think the pressure would have been overwhelming. And when you go undefeated, it is like, and you're trying to win the Super Bowl, it's almost like you got to win the Super Bowl. You're going for the Super Bowl, but also like the field, the mythical best team ever, so it's just added pressure. I think also being human, it can lead to you getting overconfident. Rob, 2007. And this is a team that I think was just better than everybody in the league. You know who I'm talking about, the Patriots with Tom Brady, with Randy Moss, Bill Belichick, one of the greatest quarterback ever, one of the greatest coaches ever, one of the greatest wide receivers ever. And they couldn't close out an undefeated season. And Rob, what did Tom Brady say? When Plaxico Burress, our Fox Sports radio colleague, said he was predicting a 23-14 or 23-17.
It was
23-14.
I thought he said 17-14.
It was 17-14.
No, I think that's
he
what
said. He wasn't right on the money. I think the score was.
I just remember Tom Brady said we're only getting 14.
Right,
is what Brady
he
said.
laughed because they averaged almost 37 points a game that year. And so Tom Brady, whatever, I think the prediction Plaxico said was like 23-14. I'll check it out. But Brady laughed and said, we're only going to score 14 points. You're human. You're averaging 37. And now somebody from a wild card team is saying you're only going to get 17. So that's my point, Rob, that, the final was 17-14 New York Giants.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately
he said 23-17.
Yeah, that 23-7. Okay.
Right.
So no,
Brady
the prediction?
Said, right.
I thought Brady said we're only going to score 14 points. But maybe it was 17
What was the final
points.
in the game? Was it 17?
The final was 17-14.
Okay.
So Plaxico's prediction, I'll get it. But anyway, that's my point, is that, it can just make you kind of. So at the end of the day, I think they can learn from this. They're not the perfect team. They're not head and shoulders above everybody else in the NFC or maybe even their division. They got a lot of work to do. So I think this sends them back to the drawing board, Rob, in a good way. and this is this is good for them.
Chris,
His prediction, Rob, was 23-17.
All right, and they only got 14.
Yeah.
17-14 was the right? Is that the final?
17-14 was the final.
Okay. Anyway, Chris, I hear you. I don't think it has anything to do with what's going to happen in the postseason. I think that sounds good as something to talk about this time of year, but in reality, them being 8-0, 9-0, 10-0 would not determine what they're going to do in the postseason.
How about 16?
Just like it doesn't even matter. That's the reason that Brady
wouldn't matter.
No, Brady and them didn't lose because they were 18-0. It's because the Giants played better. The Giants played better. That's all I'm saying. Like, that had nothing to do. Like, it wasn't like they felt the pressure. Oh my God, we're gonna do it. We're gonna go 19-0 and have a perfect season and match the Dolphins, and it's gonna be even better because we played more games than the Dolphins. That's not why they lost. They lost because the Giants made plays. Eli made plays. They had Eli in their grasp. They were close to winning that game, and Eli sidestepped, pulled away, and made an unbelievable throw. That wasn't even ball game on Tyreek. What was his name on David Tyree? That was just to keep the play and the drive alive. That wasn't the game where he just threw it up in the end zone and he came down with it. He still had to find Plaxico to beat them. So I understand, like the whole notion and the idea that they were even thinking about 17-0 when you're 8-0 with 9 games to go. Really, you're marking off the calendar. I saw the Colts 14-0, and they didn't even finish the job. It's hard to do, but I don't believe there's any correlation between what you do in the regular season and the postseason. And that's how teams get hot and they win, and teams who are great all year, they flame out because they weren't prepared, they weren't ready, whatever it is. But I don't think that the Eagles looked at this year and go, yeah, let's lose a couple games so we can win the Super Bowl.
Well,
if we lose a couple games.
I mean, who said that? Nobody
I'm just saying.
They went out there trying to lose a couple
I didn't say they tried to lose, but that mentality of losing now to learn what?
But who said that? You're saying that like that's what I was saying.
All right, so what's your point about the postseason? I was saying
at the end of the day, this is a learning experience and it'll be good for them. I said, when I said it last week, when I said it today, you don't go out there and try to lose. You don't go out there and try not to play your best. But the fact that they lost, I think is good because, one, they can learn from it. Now, you can learn from a win, too. But I think this wakes you up like, you know what, we're not as good as we think we may have thought we were. But my main point is the pressure, the scrutiny. Even in 2007, it's still, social media wasn't nearly as big as it is today. The talk shows weren't quite as big as they are today. Like, to me, that added scrutiny, that added pressure, all of that would just make it even harder. Now, you're right. You get on the field, you got to play. I mean, nobody's denying that. But I do think that stuff would have made it tougher for Philadelphia. And off the field, things can affect you. And so I think it's very tough today or in any period, but particularly today, to go undefeated throughout the whole season and the playoffs, especially with the added scrutiny.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't think that there's any correlation between the two, and I'd have to see some evidence. Just because there's social media and the talk shows don't mean that everybody's watching it or the players who are involved. It's about making plays. It's about going out, being prepared. It's about those things that matter. Whether you win or lose, you could have a great game plan and still wind up losing the game. And what did you learn from it? They played better than us. My God, the guy just kicked a 65-yard field goal. What else could we do? We kept him out of field goal range, and he still made it. I mean, I don't know if you go back home and go, oh, wow, yeah, we're going to learn from this. We should have held him to 75 yards. Like you could lose games, Chris, and it not be your fault. So I just don't – I don't have the correlation between regular season and what this is going to do for the Eagles come postseason. That's what I'm trying to figure out from what you're saying. How does that correlate?
Right.